This yo-yo is the Fast 201 by YoYoFactory, and we are happy to recommend this yo-yo for beginners, and we even give it a Superfly rating because it's super durable, which is great for beginners. It requires almost no maintenance, which is pretty amazing for a ball bearing yo-yo. We'll talk about that. And it actually does a whole lot of different types of tricks really easily once you know how this yo-yo works, and just a couple of tips that we'll give you in this video. So let's take a look at it and see what makes this yo-yo so great for beginners. The reason the Fast 201 is so good for beginners is because it's got kind of like training wheels built into it to make the most basic yo-yo tricks, which can be very challenging to learn at first. It's got some training wheels to make those easier, but those training wheels don't actually stop you from advancing and learning all sorts of more challenging tricks. And by training wheels, what I'm talking about is this starburst technology that they have built into it. We'll show you that in our take apart portion of the video. But on the most fundamental level, what it allows you to do is it allows you to just wind the yo-yo just like this, which most ball bearing yo-yos won't allow you to do. You'll just keep spinning the yo-yo around and around until you find some other technique to get the string to wrap around. And so it's easier for that, but it's also easier for doing your fast wind. And it's responsive when you play with it. It's consistently responsive, which usually another yo-yo would need lube or something like that, but the Fast 201 doesn't, which is pretty awesome. And despite the training wheels and how aggressive those starbursts are on the string, it still sleeps for like 30 to 45 seconds, which is pretty good for a yo-yo like this. And so you combine that with the durability, it's just got everything that a beginner would want out of a yo-yo, and it's really not too expensive. So it's a pretty good way to get into yo-yoing, and it can take you pretty far. I can't take you all the way to the most advanced tricks, but that's not what this yo-yo is for. So let's take it apart and see why it's such a great yo-yo for beginners and what YoYoFactory has done to make this yo-yo what it is. So as you take apart the Fast 201, it's got a few different pieces in here. You want to make sure that you always keep track of those. You can see on this end there's an O-ring, there's an O-ring on the other side too. And you've got the spacer here. You've got a bearing and another spacer on the other side. And you can see how those are sticking together. One thing is that the pieces in this yo-yo actually fit together really well, and so a lot of times they'll just stick together and they won't come out of the yo-yo, which is good if you're yo-yoing and the yo-yo comes apart. You don't want to lose anything. What you'll notice about the spacer is that one end fits inside the bearing itself and the other end's flat, so obviously when you're putting it together, you want to put the flat end in against the yo-yo and then put the bearing on top of it, along with the other spacer on top. So it's a pretty sensible way. It goes together pretty easy. Now, if you look at the yo-yo half itself, you can see there's the clear plastic, and then it's got this red plastic on the inside, because this is a red one. And you can see all these spokes coming out, and then these spokes actually poke through the yo-yo into these starbursts right here, and so you can actually touch the red plastic, and you can see if you push on it, it goes down into the yo-yo, and this is what makes the yo-yo unique. This is what makes it work. These are kind of the training wheels that I was talking about. And so as the yo-yo spins, the string is going to touch up against these. It makes a little bit of noise, and it'll push those into the yo-yo to allow it to sleep for a long time, but when you pull it back up, those things are going to be pretty aggressive, and they're going to grab the string and make the yo-yo respond really quickly, really easily, which is what makes it so easy to wind up, what makes it so easy to learn all your basics, and what makes it so responsive. And so it's a pretty ingenious design because it uses a ball bearing system, which gets you a lot of sleep, but it has this very aggressive response that doesn't slow the yo-yo down too much, but gives you the kind of response that you need. And so it's struck a pretty impressive balance, which is really what makes the yo-yo what it is. And that's why they've named it after it. The Fast and Fast 201 is fully active starburst technology, which is really a mouthful, but they're just kind of pointing out, you know, that's what those starbursts are on the inside. They're active. So if you look at the yo-yo itself, one thing that you'll notice on the packaging of the yo-yo is they're going to tell you that you can either line up the starbursts on the inside like this, or you can offset them a little bit. And if you line them up, then that's going to make the yo-yo a little bit easier to wind the string. It's going to make it a little bit more responsive. If you offset them, then it's going to make it a little less responsive, maybe better for string tricks. That's true for the most part. What I found is that if you just tighten the yo-yo down and get it nice and snug, you don't really need to crank on it, but just get it so that it's not easily tightening anymore. It's going to wind up pretty easy when you do that. If you loosen the yo-yo up just a little bit, that'll make it better for string tricks. It'll make it a little bit less responsive if you want to work on some other tricks. We'll talk about those in the trick portion of this video. But that's what the starbursts are all about, and that's what makes this yo-yo work. So that is the Fast 201 taken apart. As we've already noted, one of the great things about the Fast 201 is that these aggressive starbursts, they grab the string so well that it makes tricks like learning how to wind the string quickly and stuff like that, it makes it a lot easier. But also, because it's a ball bearing yo-yo, it'll sleep long enough to give you plenty of time to do all of your different string tricks. And that's just another thing that will help you progress. It'll help you get better at your throw and things like that. Now, if you have the yo-yo all the way tightened down and you try to land it on the string, you're going to get a lot of feedback from the yo-yo. It's going to vibrate quite a bit. And so if you want to do string tricks, all you have to do is just loosen the gap just a little bit. And you should be able to get it right on the string, and then it'll play on the string actually pretty great. It can make a little bit of noise, maybe even a lot of noise while you're doing that. Some kids might even find that to be kind of fun, kind of cool, because it lets everybody around know that they're yo-yoing. But the nice thing is that it doesn't interfere with play, and so you can learn all of your basic string tricks with this yo-yo. Now, one thing that you'll find is that when you want to get into more advanced string tricks, if you try to bind the yo-yo, sometimes the yo-yo will get into a knot, especially if the yo-yo is tightened down really well. And the same thing applies to binding as it does to string tricks, is that when you try to get it on the string, if the yo-yo knots up on you when you're starting to do your bind, all that means is that the yo-yo's tightened down too much. And what you can do to deal with that is just loosen the yo-yo up a little bit. And then you can even use this yo-yo to bind, which again I think is pretty amazing considering how aggressive those starbursts are, that you can actually use it for that. And once you've learned how to bind, then you're going to be ready to graduate to a more advanced yo-yo, an unresponsive 1A yo-yo. And most unresponsive yo-yos will be able to take you all the way into the most advanced tricks. So again, it's pretty impressive that one yo-yo can take you all the way from being an absolute beginner up into almost ready to do more advanced string tricks. But that's what the Fast 201 is capable of. And again, that's why we think it's just a great yo-yo to get you started. One thing that we've mentioned about this yo-yo is that it doesn't require a whole lot of maintenance, which for a beginner is nice because you'd rather focus on learning the tricks than on maintaining your yo-yo. But I'll show you how to put the string on, and this is just the most conventional way to put a string on any yo-yo. Most yo-yos work like this, I mean. So again, you're just going to take your string and split it apart at the bottom and open the loop up. And like I said, just like any other yo-yo, you're just going to put it on one time and then pull the string back and allow it to twist around. And that's pretty much all you need to know about stringing the Fast 201. Because the response system is so aggressive, it actually doesn't matter a whole lot what kind of string you use. And so if there's a certain color that you like, I recommend you just get that color, whether it's polyester or 50-50 or whatever, it just doesn't matter. If you prefer white string, just get any kind of white string. If you get a 50-50 blend or 100% polyester, it's going to last a lot longer than cotton string, but for the most part, all strings play pretty similarly on this yo-yo. Now, we did say that you don't really need to lube the bearing, and that's because usually you lube the bearing in order to make it more responsive when it comes to a responsive yo-yo. One thing that you can do, if you want to, is you can just get some thin lube if you want the bearing to last longer. And you can just open the yo-yo up. And a lot of times what we'll recommend is that you actually lube the axle. So that would be lubing it right here in order to make the yo-yo more responsive. But actually with this yo-yo, you don't need to do that because the response system is aggressive enough. So what you would do in this case is if you want the bearing to last longer, you can just put a tiny drip, 1 or 2 drips on the bearing itself. Won't really take a whole lot, Again, you can use thin lube because the yo-yo is responsive enough. You don't need a thicker lube slowing your bearing down and making it like that. And so, yeah, that's really all you need. Once you get that, you just put the string on. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what kind of string you get. And you're pretty much ready to go. It should just continue to work and work until you're ready to move on to a different yo-yo. So I'm sure that you can see by now why we're so happy to recommend the Fast 201 for people just getting into yo-yoing. The fact that it doesn't need a lot of maintenance, so there aren't a lot of things to think about besides learning the tricks, which is pretty great. It's very responsive, and so it's going to be easy to, just throw the yo-yo down, get it to come back up. It's durable, so if you're going to be hitting the ground a lot, which a lot of beginners do, you don't have to worry about it breaking as quickly as some other yo-yos may break. And frankly, it just plays great. It does all sorts of different types of tricks, and it does them well. And so, again, if you're just getting started, if you want to get a yo-yo for somebody who's probably over 8, maybe over 10, who you really think will be into yo-yoing, this is a great place to get started. And of course, you can use all of our videos to learn all those beginner tricks and all the way up through the more advanced tricks. And so we are happy to recommend to you the Fast 201 by YoYoFactory.